morning, students. Today we are going to do the poem Birches by Robert Frost. But before we start with the poem, let us first read the introduction of the poet. Robert Frost, 1874 to 1963, was an American poet whose work was initially published in England before it was published in America. So he was very popular in England also, besides being popular in America. Frost was honored frequently during his lifetime, receiving 4 Pulitzer Prizes for poetry. Pulitzer Prize, what is the Pulitzer Prize? It is a very famous and one of the prestigious honors and one of the prestigious awards given in US, right? For journalism, it is given for journalism and poetry, drama, music, excellence in these things. This award is given for these things. He also delivered a poem at the inauguration of President John F. Kennedy. Now, what is the inauguration of the president? Inauguration of the president. It is like you can say a very formal ceremony in US. Like when a new president is elected and he takes office for a new term. The term of the president in US is 4 years. So that is known as the inauguration of the president, a formal ceremony in US when a new president after election takes the presidential oath and other ceremonies are observed. So that is the inauguration of the president. So he also delivered the poem at the inauguration of President John F. Kennedy, who remarked about him, "He has bequeathed his nation a body of imperishable verse from which Americans will forever gain joy and understanding." So these were the words of Kennedy for Frost. For his poems, Frost delivered an original modern idiom and a sense of directness and economy. So these are the features of his poems. They are very direct and he is not very verbose as far as his poetry is concerned. He uses very less number of words to convey deep meaning. He maintained that a poem begins as a lump in the throat, a sense of wrong, a homesickness, a loneliness. It is never a thought to begin with. It is at its best when it is a tantalizing vagueness. So this is how Frost defined poetry. Frost enriched his style by setting traditional meters against the natural rhythms of his speech. His poems frequently employ settings from rural life in New England in the early 20th century. So he has basically written about the common man and the life of a common man, normally the rural areas, the people living in the rural areas. Right? So he is also known as a regional poet, right? Or a poet of nature, using them to examine complex social and philosophical themes. He will take a very simple topic and then become very philosophical about it, right? So he has this capability of communicating very complex, very serious philosophical ideas by picking up a simple day-to-day incident from a common man's life. The poem Birches is written in the form of a blank verse, right? So what is a blank verse? A blank verse is a type of poem where the lines, they don't rhyme with each other, right? With a particular emphasis on the sound of sense, right? So the poem is not rhyming. There is no rhyme scheme followed in the poem, right? In writing the poem, Frost was inspired. So what are birches? Birches are the trees I told you with long stems, long slender stems. And you must have seen in the villages Or in the forest, like the children, the small children, what do? They catch hold of those branches and they swing on those branches, the branches of the trees. This is like their favorite game in villages. They enjoy doing it, right? So this poem which Frost wrote. So in this poem, he has mentioned about his childhood memory of swinging on the birch trees, right? And he has related that childhood experience of swinging on the birch trees to give a very philosophical meaning of life, that is the imagination and the real world, the rational world and the imaginative world, right? He has talked about this theme through that simple process of swinging on the birches as a child. Childhood experience of swinging on the birches, which was a popular form of play for children in rural areas. So mostly the children in the rural areas, they do this. They swing on the trees, on the branches of the trees. Why? Because there are a lot of trees in the forest. In the cities, it's very difficult to find. So it's one of the favorite sport of the children in the rural areas. In the poem, the act of swinging on the birch tree is presented as a way to escape harsh reality. So harsh reality of the rational world, of the real world. So what happens when you swing on a birch tree? What happens? You are lifted from the earth, right? So that process of lifting from the earth is compared to the transportation from the real world to the imaginative world. And that swinging on the branch of a tree gives you happiness. You are in an ecstatic mood when you are swinging on the branch of a tree. You are in the air. You are away from the earth. Right? You have been lifted up from the earth. So lifting up up from the earth is like going into the imaginative world. When your feet they are rest on the earth, it is that you are a part of the real world. Right? So the children in the rural area, in the poem, the act of swinging on the birch tree is presented as a way. So he has related this process of swinging on the birch tree to escape from the harsh reality or the truth of the adult world. Adult world, the life of an adult is full of many problems, difficulties, tensions. So that swinging or getting lifted from the earth is being transported to the imaginative world, if only for a moment. But the poet knows that he cannot stay there forever. So though he says that upliftment from the earth and getting away from this real world to the imaginative world for some time, it gives you happiness, it makes you feel relaxed. But again, this cannot be a permanent transition. Right? This transition from reality to imagination, this cannot be a permanent thing. And how has he expressed this? That the trees, they are grounded to the earth. So your connection from the earth, though you are swinging on a birch tree, but again your connection from this earth is not broken, because the tree on which you are swinging is somehow grounded to the earth by its roots. So it may give you temporary relief from pain, from suffering for some time, but this is something which will not last forever. After some time, when you have enjoyed swinging on the birch tree, then again you will have to come back and face your life, deal with the problems of life. So it can be a rejuvenating experience for you, a relaxing experience for you, but the imaginative world is not a place to live or stay there permanently. So, though he can climb to a place where his imagination can be free, a swinger is grounded to the earth through the roots. So, you cannot move away from the real world permanently. This is what he is trying to express. The narrator in the poem feels a sense of regret that as an adult, he is unable to leave his responsibilities behind. So again, he has said that though it is enjoyable to swing on a birch tree, but You cannot run away from your responsibility. You will have to come back. You can go to the imaginative world, stay there for some time, feel peaceful, relaxed, but again, at the end, you will have to come back. Like the swinger of the birches, who, when he is in the air swinging on the birch tree, he enjoys, but again, he cannot go on and on swinging on the birch tree. After some time, he will have to keep his feet to the ground and come back to the reality. This earth is the reality, right? He is unable to leave his responsibilities behind and climb towards heaven until he can start afresh on the earth. So this is the theme of the poem. Now, what is a birch tree? You see the picture of a birch tree. These are birch trees. The stem is slender. Can you see it on your screen? Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
These are birches. The stem you can see is very slender, right? This is a birch forest, and normally these trees, they are like in large number. Okay. So now let us start with the poem. When I see birches bend to left and right, across the line of a straighter, darker trees. So he says he's talking about a group of trees, right? Theme I've already told you. What is the theme of the poem? Imagination versus real world. The imaginative world versus real world. He has drawn a comparison between the imaginative world and the real world through this poem, right? Says, when I see birches bent to left and right. Now, in the poet is going through the woods, and there are a lot of birch trees present there at the place where the poet is standing or is walking. So what happens? He sees a lot of birch trees, and all the birch trees which are visible to him, they are bent either left towards the left or towards the right. So the reason for this has been explained by the poem in the lines which we are going to read further. But this is the first thing which he observed, that while he was walking or going through the woods, he saw birch trees which were bending towards the left side or the right side, across the lines of a straighter, darker tree. So there were other trees which were straighter. You must have seen the birch tree, the picture which I have shown you. They are not dark. The stem of those trees are not dark. They are lighter in color, right? So across the lines of a straighter, darker tree. So there are darker trees, there are straighter trees. See, if the stem of the tree is strong, it will remain straight. But the birches, they have slender stem and they are very tall. So what will happen? Any kind of external natural force will bend it. So he sees that other types of trees which are darker, different types of trees, they are straighter, but these birch trees, they are moving to, they have been bent towards the left or towards the right side. I like to think some boys been swinging them, but swinging doesn't bend them down. So the poet says that I wish that this damage to the birch tree, what damage? That they have been bent towards the left and towards the right. He wishes that this must have been done by some boy, right? That some boy, some swinger of the birches must have been swinging on these trees and has forced them to bend towards the left and towards the right. Now this is his wish. He desires that this must have been done by some boy. But that is not the reality. The moment this thought comes into his mind, right, he is reminded of his childhood memory and he feels that maybe some boy, some young boy has caused this irreparable damage to the birch trees. But the next moment, what happens? As but swinging doesn't bend them down this way. Reality dawns upon him. Reality dawns upon him, and he says, "But this is not the reality." I like to think. He would love to think. He would like to think that this has been caused by some boy who must have been swinging on them. But the next moment, he realizes that swinging doesn't bend them down to stay. No matter how long a boy goes on swinging on a birch tree, the swinging cannot cause permanent damage to the birch tree. That is not possible. So there must have been some other reason for this bending of birch tree as ice storms do. So then he comes up with another reason, right, which is a logical reason. So this was his imaginative reason, right? He wants to imagine that a boy has caused this damage, but then the next thought which comes to his mind, right, which tells him the reality, right, which makes him relate to the real world, that this damage cannot be caused by the swinging of the boy on the birch trees, because the real reason of this bending is the ice storm. It's only possible for the ice storms to do it. Why? Often you must have seen them loaded with ice a sunny winter morning. So then he is reminded that in the winter morning, when there is rainfall after a rain, he has mentioned. So when there is rainfall in winter, what happens? That rainfall is accompanied by snowfall, right? And then that snow gets deposited on the top of these trees. It gets fossiled on the top of these trees. And then because of the weight of the snow on the trees, these trees bend because of the load of the snow. And the snow stays on top of those trees for a long period of time, and so the bending becomes permanent, right? Often you must have seen loaded with ice on a sunny winter morning. So if you move out of your house in a sunny winter morning, right? In a winter morning when the sun is just about to rise, right? Coming up on the sky, what happens after a rain? But this is something which you will be able to observe only after a rain in a winter morning. Right? Then only this natural phenomena can be observed. They click upon themselves as the breeze rises. So you will hear. So now what happens? Now because the sunlight is there, it is a sunny winter morning after a rain. So in the night, there must have been rainfall, and with the rainfall, snowfall must have also occurred because it was winter season. So in winter's rainfall is accompanied by snowfall. So in European countries and cold countries. So he says, and then in the morning when the sun is just rising, what happens? You must have experienced this in your freezer also. The moment you open the freezer, and if it is like jammed with ice, with a lot of ice inside your freezer, what will happen? You will hear that clicking, crackling sound is heard. Why? Because of the external heat. The ice will start making this sound and will start breaking after some time. They click upon themselves as the breeze blows. And as the breeze starts blowing, now there is morning breeze also, and there is sunlight also. So this is snow which has fossiled upon those trees, which has deposited upon those trees. What happens? This snow will slowly start melting. This load of the snow on the top of a tree, it will start melting and ultimately it will come down. So they click upon themselves as the breeze rises. So as the breeze blows, the clicking sound is heard and turn many colored as the stir cracks and crackles there now. So that enamel, that means the ice, the layers of ice, because of the heat, because the temperature is rising in the morning, as the sun is present in the sky. So the rise in temperature makes this possible that the ice starts cracking and it turns many colored because of the light, and these kind of sounds cracks and crazes their enamel, and there is cracking, crazing of enamel. The enamel, that is the layer of ice, it starts breaking. Right? So turn many colored when the light of the sun falls on it and it starts shining. So different colors are visible, and the outer layer of that ice starts breaking. It begins to turn. Soon the sun's warmth makes them shed crystal. And what happens? Because of the warmth of the sun, the snow and the ice which has deposited on the top of those trees starts shedding like crystal shell. So that ice has been compared to the crystal shells. It appears like crystal, shattering and avalanching on the snow crust. Such heaps of broken glass to see. So what happens as the temperature rises in the morning, right? Because of the presence of the sun and due to the heat of the sun, this snow is broken. Snow on the top of the tree is broken and it appears like crystal, and after some time it falls. And the sound of falling has been compared to the shattering and avalanching. Avalanching means, what is an avalanche? Avalanches are the like huge pieces of ice and snow and even rocks, right? When they move at a great speed from the mountain, that is an avalanche, right? So avalanching used as a verb means coming at a great speed when something comes all of a sudden down. So that is avalanching. So this, now that ice which was there on top of the tree, that has been broken, and then it comes down, it falls down at great speed. So that has been, so these words shattering and avalanching has been used for the snow crust which comes down from the top of the tree to the ground, right? Like crystals. Such heaps of broken glass to sweep away. Now, because a lot of ice has fallen to the ground and it appears like broken glass, right? So it appears like a heap of broken glass. Those pieces of those pieces of ice, they appear like heap of broken glass when they come shattering to the ground from the top of the tree, and now they will have to be swept away. They will have to be cleaned and thrown in the dustbin.